I stared at the text message, reading it for the fifth time. Serafina, just being honest. You're not really welcome at the family reunion. Everyone thinks you're too dramatic. My brother Marcus had sent this at midnight, probably thinking I would not see it until morning. But I was awake scrolling through travel confirmations for our family's week-long vacation to the Bahamas that I had spent 6 months planning and paying for. The irony was not lost on me. I was being uninvited to a trip I had organized and funded entirely myself. Before we dive into this wild family revenge story, I want to know, where are you watching from tonight? If you are ready for some serious family karma and justice being served, smash that like button and subscribe, because this story is about to take some incredible turns that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about family loyalty. The next morning, I called Marcus directly. What do you mean I'm not welcome? I planned this entire trip. Look, Sarah, Mom and Dad think you've been causing too much drama lately. That whole thing with questioning Dad's business decisions, asking about the family finances, it's making everyone uncomfortable. My stomach dropped. 3 months ago, I had started asking questions about our family's sudden wealth. Dad had always been a middle manager at a manufacturing company, but suddenly we had a vacation home, luxury cars, and he was funding elaborate family trips. When I expressed concern about where this money was coming from, I was labeled as dramatic and ungrateful. Marcus, I paid for this trip. The resort bookings, the flights, everything is in my name and charged to my credit cards. Yeah, well, Dad said he'll pay you back eventually. Look, just cancel your stuff. We'll handle our own arrangements. That afternoon, I drove to Mom and Dad's house. I found them in the kitchen excitedly discussing snorkeling plans. Hi, honey, Mom said cheerfully. Marcus said you decided not to come on the trip. That's probably for the best. You've been so stressed lately. I felt like I was in an alternate reality. Mom, I planned this trip. I booked everything. The confirmation emails are in my name. Dad looked up from his newspaper with irritation. Serafina, we appreciate what you did, but we've decided to handle things ourselves from here. You've been questioning our decisions too much lately, and frankly, it's creating unnecessary tension. What decisions, Dad? Where is all this money coming from? Last year, you were worried about retirement, and now you're living like you won the lottery. Mom and Dad exchanged a look that I had been seeing more frequently, the look that said they were keeping something from me. That's exactly the kind of attitude we're talking about, Dad said coldly. You're always suspicious, always stirring up problems. Maybe some time apart will help you gain some perspective. I left their house in shock. That evening, I called my cousin Riley, who had always been like a sister to me. Riley, something weird is happening. They're cutting me out of the family trip I planned and paid for, and they're acting like I'm the problem for asking basic questions about Dad's finances. Riley was quiet for a moment. Sarah, there's something you should know. I overheard Uncle Tom talking to my dad last week. Your dad has been taking money from your grandmother's estate account. Grandma Rose put him in charge of her finances when her dementia got worse, and he's been using it like his personal checking account. My blood ran cold. Grandma Rose was 92 and had been diagnosed with moderate dementia 2 years ago. Dad had convinced her to make him power of attorney for financial decisions, claiming it would make things easier for everyone. Riley, are you sure? My dad saw the bank statements. Your dad bought that new BMW with Grandma's money. The vacation house down payment came from her account too. And get this. He's been telling Grandma that her money is going to her medical expenses and care, but she's been living off her Social Security because he moved all her savings. I felt sick. My own father was essentially stealing from his elderly mother with dementia, and when I had started asking questions, the family had decided I was the problem. There's more, Sarah. Marcus knows. He's been helping Dad hide it. That's why they want you away from the family gathering. They're planning to discuss what to do about Grandma's situation, and they cannot have you there asking questions. That night, I sat in my apartment with my laptop open, staring at all the travel confirmations. I had booked a luxury resort first-class flights for 6 people, rental cars, and excursions. Everything was paid for and confirmed in my name. A plan began forming in my mind. I opened my laptop and began making some changes. The next morning, I called the resort directly. "Hi, this is Serafina Walsh. I have a reservation for 6 people starting next week, confirmation number." I gave them all the details. "Yes, Miss Walsh, I see your reservation. How can I help you?" "I need to make some modifications. I'm going to be keeping my original booking, but I need to remove 5 people from the reservation and change it to a single occupancy suite." "Of course. May I ask the names of the guests you're removing?" I gave them my parents' names, Marcus and his wife Jennifer, and my Aunt Susan and Uncle Mike. "Please also cancel all the excursions booked for those guests and refund them to my card." "Certainly. Is there anything else?" "Yes, I would like to upgrade my suite to the presidential package and add the spa package for 1 person. Also, please put a note on my account that I am the only authorized person to make changes to this reservation." After I hung up, I called the airline. The tickets were all in my name, purchased with my credit card. I explained that there had been a change in plans. "I need to cancel 5 tickets and change my own to first class, please." "I can do that. There will be a change fee for the upgrade, but the cancellations will be refunded to your original payment method minus the cancellation fees." That's perfect. By noon, I had systematically undone every arrangement I had made for my family. They would arrive at the airport to find their tickets canceled. The resort would have no record of their reservation. The rental cars would be unavailable. But I was not done. I spent the afternoon researching elder abuse laws and financial exploitation statutes. I found a lawyer who specialized in elder abuse cases and made an appointment for the following day. That evening, I drove to Grandma Rose's assisted living facility. She was having one of her clearer days, thank goodness. "Grandma, it's Sarah. How are you feeling?" "Oh, Serafina, dear, I'm so worried. I think someone is taking my money. I keep asking your father about my accounts, and he tells me not to worry, but I cannot remember giving him permission to spend so much." My heart broke. Even with dementia, she knew something was wrong. "Grandma, I want to help you. Can you tell me what you remember about your finances?" "I had almost $300,000 saved up. Your grandfather and I were very careful with money, but now, when I ask your father, he says there's barely enough for my care here. I don't understand where it went." I held her hand. "Grandma, I'm going to figure this out, but I need you to know that I believe you and you're not crazy. Something is wrong and I'm going to fix it." The next day, I met with attorney Patricia Morrison. I brought copies of everything I could find: old bank statements, the power of attorney documents, and notes from my conversation with Riley and Grandma Rose. "Miss Walsh, based on what you're telling me, this could constitute financial elder abuse and exploitation. The penalties are severe. We're talking potential felony charges and mandatory restitution. What do I need to do? First, we need to document everything. I'm going to petition the court for an emergency review of the power of attorney arrangement and a forensic accounting of your grandmother's finances. Do you have access to any recent bank statements?" "Not yet, but I know someone who might." I called Riley. "I need your dad to get me copies of those bank statements he saw." "Sarah, are you sure you want to do this? This could tear the family apart." "Riley, they already tore the family apart when they chose stealing over integrity, and they made it worse when they decided to cast me out for asking questions." That afternoon, Uncle David Riley's father met me at a coffee shop with a manila envelope. "Sarah, I should have spoken up sooner. I've been struggling with this for weeks." He handed me the envelope. "These are copies of statements from your grandmother's account for the past 2 years. Your father has withdrawn over $250,000. I opened the envelope and felt my hands shake as I looked at the statements. Withdrawal after withdrawal. 50,000 here, 30,000 there, always with Dad's signature. Meanwhile, deposits to the account had stopped except for Grandma's monthly Social Security. Uncle David, why didn't you say anything? Because he's my brother, and I hoped maybe there was an explanation. But seeing how they're treating you for asking legitimate questions, I realized I was being a coward. That evening, I forwarded everything to Patricia Morrison. She called me back within an hour. Serafina, this is even worse than we thought. I'm filing an emergency petition tomorrow morning. We're going to freeze all accounts associated with your father's power of attorney and request an immediate investigation. The next morning was the day my family was supposed to leave for the Bahamas. I woke up to 7 missed calls and 12 text messages. I made myself coffee and read through them slowly. Marcus. Sarah, what the hell did you do? Our tickets are canceled. Dad. Serafina, call me immediately. There's been some mistake with the travel arrangements. Mom. Honey, please call us back. We're at the airport and nothing is working. Jennifer Marcus's wife. Are you seriously doing this over a stupid argument? I did not respond to any of them. Instead, I was sitting in Patricia Morrison's office as she filed paperwork with the county courthouse. The judge has agreed to an emergency hearing this afternoon, she told me. We're requesting immediate suspension of your father's power of attorney and appointment of a professional conservator pending investigation. My phone rang again. This time it was Riley. Sarah, my parents want to help. Dad feels terrible about not speaking up sooner, and Mom has been keeping track of things too. She noticed that Grandma Rose has been asking for clothes and personal items that she should be able to afford, but your dad keeps telling her she needs to be careful with money. What kind of things? New shoes, a warm coat, basic stuff. Mom went ahead and bought some things for Grandma, but she was shocked that a woman with her savings was being told she could not afford necessities. Riley, would your parents be willing to testify about what they've observed? Already asked. They'll be at the courthouse this afternoon. At 2:00, we gathered in Judge Harrison's courtroom. It was just our small group, Patricia, myself, Uncle David, Aunt Carol Riley's mom, and, surprisingly, Grandma Rose's social worker from the assisted living facility, Maria Santos. Your Honor, Patricia began, we're requesting emergency intervention in a case of suspected financial elder abuse. Mrs. Rose Walsh, age 92, with diagnosed dementia, has had approximately $250,000 withdrawn from her accounts by her son Thomas Walsh, who holds power of attorney. The judge reviewed our evidence. Miss Santos, you're the court-appointed social worker for Mrs. Walsh. Yes, Your Honor. I've been concerned about Mrs. Walsh's financial situation for several months. She frequently expresses confusion and distress about her finances, and there have been instances where necessary personal items were denied due to claimed financial constraints, despite our understanding that Mrs. Walsh had substantial savings. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, the judge addressed my aunt and uncle. You've observed the defendant's spending patterns. Uncle David cleared his throat nervously. Your Honor, my brother has purchased a new BMW, made a down payment on a vacation home, and funded multiple luxury vacations in the past 18 months. When family members questioned the source of these funds, they were told it was none of their business, or in the case of my niece Serafina, excluded from family gatherings. Judge Harrison looked grim. I'm granting the emergency petition. Thomas Walsh's power of attorney is hereby suspended immediately. I'm appointing a professional conservator and ordering a complete forensic audit of Mrs. Rose Walsh's finances. All accounts are frozen pending investigation. As we left the courthouse, my phone was buzzing constantly. I finally answered when Marcus called for the 10th time. Sarah, what have you done? Dad just got served with papers and all of Grandma's accounts are frozen. Marcus, I've done what someone should have done months ago. I've protected Grandma from being robbed. You're destroying the family over money. No, Marcus. Dad destroyed the family when he decided to steal from his elderly mother with dementia. And you destroyed it further when you helped him cover it up. There was silence on the other end. Marcus, I know you've been helping him hide this. Riley told me everything. Sarah, you don't understand. Dad said he was investing the money that he was going to pay it back with interest. Marcus, stop. Just stop lying. There were no investments. I've seen the bank statements. He bought cars and houses and vacations with Grandma's money while she's been living on Social Security and being told she cannot afford new shoes. I could hear Jennifer in the background telling Marcus to hang up. This is not over, Sarah, he said finally. You are right. It is not over. It is just getting started. That evening, Riley called with unexpected news. Sarah, you're not going to believe this. Remember Marcus's wife, Jennifer? She just called me crying. She had no idea about the money thing, and she's furious with Marcus for lying to her and getting involved. Really? She wants to meet with you. She says she has information that could help, and she's scared about what Marcus might have gotten them into legally. The next day, I met Jennifer at a quiet restaurant across town. She looked exhausted and stressed. Sarah, I owe you an apology. I thought you were being dramatic and causing problems for no reason. Marcus told me you were jealous of your family's success and trying to stir up trouble. What changed your mind? When the court papers came, Marcus finally told me the truth. But Sarah, there's something else. Something that makes this even worse. She pulled out her phone and showed me a text conversation. Marcus has been getting text updates from your dad about moving money around. Look at this message from 3 days ago. I read the text, moved another $20,000 to the Cayman account. If anyone asks questions, stick to the investment story. My blood ran cold. Jennifer, are you saying there are offshore accounts? Sarah, I think your dad has been hiding money in foreign accounts. Marcus mentioned something about the Cayman setup when he was drunk last week, but I thought he was talking about some business deal. Would you be willing to share this with my lawyer? Yes, but Sarah, there's something else. I think Marcus is planning to run. Yesterday, he asked me about passport renewal and whether I thought we could qualify for Canadian work visas. Jennifer's revelation about the offshore accounts changed everything. I immediately called Patricia Morrison, who arranged an emergency meeting for the next morning. But as I was preparing to share this new information, I received a call that would shake me to my core. Serafina, this is Detective Rodriguez with the County Financial Crimes Unit. We need to speak with you about your recent court filing regarding your grandmother. My heart pounded. Of course, Detective. Is there a problem? We've received information suggesting that your allegations against your father may be fabricated and that you may have had access to your grandmother's accounts yourself. I felt the world tilt. I'm sorry who told you that. I can't reveal our source, but we have evidence suggesting you've been in contact with your grandmother's financial institutions and may have made unauthorized transactions yourself. I was speechless for a moment. Detective, I can provide you with complete records of everything I've done. I've only contacted institutions to cancel travel arrangements that I personally paid for. Miss Walsh, we're going to need you to come in for questioning. Can you be here at 2 o'clock today? After I hung up, I called Patricia immediately. Someone is trying to frame me. I told her about the detective's call. Serafina, this is clearly a defensive move by your father. Don't panic. We have documentation of everything you've done, and it's all been legal and transparent. But I had a sinking feeling about who might be feeding information to the police. I called Jennifer, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I tried again an hour later. Still voicemail. Finally, Riley called me back. Sarah, I have bad news. Jennifer met with Marcus and your dad last night. My mom saw them at the restaurant downtown, and Jennifer looked upset. Do you think she told them about our conversation? Sarah, there's more. This morning, Jennifer posted on Facebook that she's taking a step back from family drama and focusing on her marriage. And Marcus commented thanking her for seeing through the manipulation. My stomach dropped. Jennifer had been my key witness about the offshore accounts and Marcus's plans to flee. Now it seemed like she had been turned against me. At the police station, Detective Rodriguez was cold and professional. Miss Walsh, we have evidence that you've been accessing your grandmother's financial information without authorization and that you may have made fraudulent claims about your father's actions. Detective who provided you with this evidence? A family member who was concerned about your behavior came forward. They provided us with information suggesting you've been manipulating your grandmother's confusion to gain access to her accounts. I realized what had happened. My family had gotten to Jennifer, convinced her to turn against me, and now they were using her information to paint me as the real perpetrator. Detective, I can prove everything I've told you. I have bank statements, witness testimony, and court filings that document my father's unauthorized withdrawals. Miss Walsh, we also have evidence that you recently made significant changes to travel arrangements, potentially defrauding your family members. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Detective, I canceled travel arrangements that I personally paid for with my own credit cards. How is that fraud? But as the questioning continued, I realized how effectively my family had manipulated the situation. They had positioned my legitimate protective actions as vindictive fraud and my questions about missing money as manipulation of a vulnerable elderly woman. When I left the police station, I felt more alone than I had ever felt in my life. Jennifer had betrayed my trust. Marcus was actively working against me. And now, law enforcement was viewing me as a potential criminal instead of a whistleblower. That evening, I sat in my apartment staring at my phone. I had 17 missed calls from my parents and Marcus, but I could not bring myself to answer. They were probably calling to gloat about their successful counterattack. Finally, I answered when Marcus called for the 18th time. Sarah, we need to talk. This has gone too far. You mean your campaign to frame me for the crimes Dad committed has gone too far? Look, we can work this out. Dad is willing to pay back some of the money if you drop the court case and tell the police you made a mistake. Some of the money he stole over $250,000 from our grandmother with dementia. Sarah, be practical. If you keep pushing this, you're going to end up in jail. Jennifer told us about your meeting about how you tried to get her to lie about offshore accounts. I felt my anger building. Marcus Jennifer came to me with that information. I didn't ask her to lie about anything. That's not what she says now. She says you've been manipulating her and trying to get her involved in your vendetta against Dad. The betrayal cut deep. Jennifer had not only abandoned me, but was actively helping to destroy my credibility. Marcus, what did you promise Jennifer to get her to lie? We didn't promise her anything, Sarah. We just helped her see the truth about what you've been doing. You've been so obsessed with hurting Dad that you cannot see how destructive you're being. That night, I barely slept. I felt like I was fighting a battle where every ally could be turned against me and every piece of evidence could be twisted into proof of my guilt rather than my father's crimes. The next morning, I woke up to an unexpected call from Maria Santos' Grandma Rose's social worker. Serafina, can you meet me at the courthouse? I have something important to show you. When I arrived, Maria was waiting with Patricia Morrison and a woman I did not recognize. Sarah, this is Angela Patterson from the State Elder Abuse Investigation Unit. She's been conducting her own investigation into your grandmother's case. Angela shook my hand firmly. Miss Walsh, I want you to know that the accusations against you are completely unfounded. We've been investigating your father's financial activities for 6 weeks, completely independent of your court filing. I felt a wave of relief. We received an anonymous tip about potential elder abuse at Rose Walsh's facility. When we began investigating, we discovered a pattern of financial exploitation that goes far beyond what you've uncovered. Maria opened a folder. Serafina, your father has not just been stealing from your grandmother. He's been systematically defrauding the assisted living facility's billing system. What do you mean? Angela explained. Your father has been telling the facility that your grandmother's insurance covers certain services while simultaneously telling insurance companies that she's paying privately. He's been pocketing the difference. Patricia Morrison looked stunned. That's insurance fraud on top of the elder abuse. There's more, Angela continued. We've identified at least 3 other elderly residents whose finances Mr. Walsh has had access to through various arrangements. We believe the total amount of fraudulent activity exceeds $500,000. I sat down heavily. $500,000. Miss Walsh, your father isn't just a son who made some bad decisions with his mother's money. He's a serial financial predator who targets elderly people with cognitive impairments. Maria pulled out another document. Yesterday, we interviewed your grandmother during one of her clearer periods. With proper questioning techniques, she was able to provide detailed information about financial coercion and manipulation. The police detective who questioned you yesterday, Angela said, was responding to a false report filed by your father. We've since informed the police department about our investigation, and Detective Rodriguez is now very interested in speaking with your father and brother instead of you. Patricia Morrison smiled grimly. And we have more good news. The Cayman Islands account that Jennifer told you about our forensic accountant tracked it down. Your father has been moving stolen money offshore, which makes this a federal case. I felt overwhelmed by the sudden reversal. What happens now? Now we move forward with both state and federal charges against your father. The evidence is overwhelming, Angela said. But Serafina, there's something else you should know. We've discovered that Jennifer didn't actually betray you. I looked up in surprise. What do you mean? Maria smiled. Jennifer has been working with us. When your father and Marcus approached her to turn against you, she immediately contacted our office. Everything she told them was information we fed her to help build our case. The meeting she had with Marcus and your father was recorded, Angela added. We have them on tape discussing money laundering, witness intimidation, and plans to flee the country. I felt tears welling up. So Jennifer didn't really turn against me. She's been one of our best sources, Patricia said. She's been feeding your father and brother false information while documenting everything they've told her about their criminal activities. The relief was overwhelming. I had spent 2 days thinking I was completely alone, betrayed by someone I had trusted, facing false criminal charges while the real criminals went free. There's one more thing, Angela said. We need you to make a phone call to your brother. We want him to think that you're ready to give up and accept their deal. Can you do that? An hour later, I called Marcus with Angela recording the conversation. Marcus, I cannot take this anymore. The police investigation, the court case, I'm exhausted. Maybe we should talk about Dad's offer. Sarah, I'm so glad you called. This has been tearing the family apart. Dad is willing to pay back $50,000 if you drop everything and publicly admit you made a mistake. $50,000, Marcus. We both know he took over $250,000 just from Grandma's main account. Sarah, that's all he has access to right now. The rest is invested in long-term accounts that cannot be touched for a while. Angela was nodding and taking notes. Marcus was admitting on tape that there was more money hidden somewhere. What about the other money, Marcus? The money in the Cayman account. There was a long pause. Sarah, how do you know about the Cayman account? Jennifer told me, remember, before she came to her senses. Sarah, you cannot say anything about that account. If the feds find out about offshore money, Dad could go to federal prison. So there really is an offshore account. Sarah, you didn't hear that from me. But yes, there's about $200,000 in the Cayman account. But that money isn't just Dad's. There are other investors involved. Angela's eyes lit up. Marcus was admitting to a federal money laundering operation. What other investors, Marcus? I cannot get into details over the phone, but Dad has been helping other people move money offshore and they've been paying him fees. That's where some of the family's new money came from. When I hung up, Angela was smiling broadly. Miss Walsh, your brother just confessed to participating in an international money laundering operation. This case just became much bigger than we expected. The federal agents arrested my father at 6 in the morning 3 days later. I was not there to see it, but Uncle David called me with a detailed description. Dad had answered the door in his bathrobe, completely shocked to see FBI agents with a warrant for his arrest on charges of elder abuse insurance fraud and international money laundering. Marcus was arrested at his office 2 hours later. Jennifer had provided agents with recordings of him discussing the offshore accounts and admitting to helping Dad hide stolen money. I spent that morning at the courthouse watching as Patricia Morrison filed additional civil suits to recover all stolen funds. The forensic accountant had traced every dollar, and the total amount of theft was even higher than we had initially thought. Over $600,000 from multiple victims. But the most important moment came that afternoon when I visited Grandma Rose. Angela Patterson had arranged for a geriatric psychiatrist to evaluate her, and during one of her clearer periods, Grandma was able to provide a detailed victim impact statement. "Serafina, dear," she said, holding my hand tightly. I knew something was wrong. I knew my money was disappearing, but every time I tried to ask questions, your father would tell me I was confused and not to worry about it. The psychiatrist confirmed that despite her dementia, Grandma had retained awareness of the financial abuse and had been experiencing significant distress about it. Mrs. Walsh, the psychiatrist said, "Your grandmother's cognitive function is better than anyone realized. She's been deliberately isolated and gaslit about her financial situation, which actually worsened her anxiety and confusion." Over the following weeks, the full extent of Dad's criminal operation became clear. He had not only stolen from Grandma and other elderly residents at her facility, but he had been running a money laundering service for other criminals using elderly victims' accounts to move dirty money offshore. The federal prosecutor, David Kim, explained it to me during one of our meetings. Your father was essentially running a criminal enterprise disguised as elder care assistance. He would gain power of attorney over elderly people with cognitive impairments, drain their accounts, and use their identities to move money for drug dealers and other criminals. Marcus received a plea deal in exchange for testifying against Dad and providing information about the other criminals involved in the money laundering operation. He received 5 years in federal prison and was required to pay full restitution. Dad went to trial and was convicted on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 12 years in federal prison and ordered him to pay back over $800,000 in stolen funds and penalties. The vacation house was seized and sold, along with the BMW and other assets purchased with stolen money. Every dollar went back to the victims. But the most satisfying moment came when Jennifer and I attended the final restitution hearing. Grandma Rose, having a particularly clear day, was able to address the court directly. "Your Honor," she said in a strong, clear voice, "my son stole my money, but more than that, he stole my dignity. He made me think I was crazy for knowing that something was wrong. My granddaughter Serafina is the only one who believed me and fought for me." The judge looked directly at my father. "Mr. Walsh, you have not only committed financial crimes, but you have psychologically abused a vulnerable elderly woman and betrayed the most fundamental bonds of family trust. The damage you have done goes far beyond money." After the hearing, Jennifer and I walked out of the courthouse together. "Sarah, I owe you an apology for making you think I had betrayed you. That was the worst part of this whole undercover operation. Jennifer, you probably saved multiple other elderly people from being victimized. I cannot thank you enough." "What will you do now?" I thought about it. "I'm going to spend time with Grandma Rose. With proper support and without the stress of being financially abused, her doctors think her cognitive function might improve significantly. 6 months later, I moved Grandma Rose into a beautiful assisted living facility that specialized in dementia care. The restitution money had been fully recovered and she was financially secure again. More importantly, without the constant stress and gaslighting, her confusion episodes became much less frequent. Uncle David and Aunt Carol became regular visitors, and Riley and I grew even closer. Jennifer divorced Marcus but remained part of our chosen family. We started having monthly dinners together, a new family tradition based on honesty and support rather than secrets and manipulation. The most unexpected outcome was my relationship with Maria Santos, the social worker who had helped expose the abuse. She left her position at the county and joined me in starting a nonprofit organization dedicated to identifying and preventing elder financial abuse. As for the family vacation I had originally planned, I never did take that trip to the Bahamas. Instead, Grandma Rose Riley, Jennifer, Uncle David, Aunt Carol, Maria, and I took a cruise to Alaska. Grandma had always wanted to see glaciers, and with her newfound financial security and reduced stress, she was able to enjoy every moment of it. Looking back, I realized that losing my original family was painful but necessary. The family that betrayed me was built on lies and exploitation. The family I chose, the people who stood with me when it mattered, is built on truth and genuine care for each other. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had just accepted being excluded from that family vacation, if I had let Dad's dismissive attitude convince me to stop asking questions. How many other elderly people would have been victimized? How much more money would have been stolen? But I learned something important through this experience. Family is not just about blood relations. Family is about people who will stand with you when you're fighting for what's right, even when it's difficult and scary. Have you ever had to choose between keeping family peace and standing up for what's right? Have you experienced that moment when you realized that sometimes the people who should protect you are actually the ones you need protection from? I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, or if you've seen justice served in your own family situations, please share this video with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to like this video if you believe in standing up for vulnerable family members and subscribe for more stories about real family drama and justice being served. Thank you for taking this journey with me, and remember, sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into, and fighting for what's right is always worth it, even when the cost seems too high to pay.